What's good? It's your boy CJ Goodfella back with the boxing clinic and more. And I guess Andre Ward was calling the Salido fight tonight. I didn't catch the telecast at all. Was a little bit occupied after the Rigondeaux Lomachenko fight. But he said never say never to him coming back fighting Kovalev. I think that's a smart man, always leaving the door open. He said physically, I think that reading in between lines, I think physically, the sport and just his body started to break down. I'm gonna lead an article. I'm gonna lead an interview from the Boxing Voice. Shout out to Nestor Gibbs and them in the description so you can see it and get the real lowdown. But I'm just gonna take the important parts out of it. But yeah, he said you do have moments where you wish you still was boxing, and he said he wouldn't rule out a third Kovalev fight or a comeback. He said you always still have that fire, but right now he's retired. He's happy. And he felt that Tevin got robbed. He also spoke on that in another interview, just to say that tonight. Was asked about Crawford and Spence. Said that's a 50-50. Said he got both love for both guys. He paid big money for that fight. But, it's funny, man, that he was sparring a couple weeks ago, and he's still contributing to the sport. And I think this is a guy that could be a good trainer. I really do, man. He was never the fastest, the quickest guy. His game was more mental. And I think the mental guys make the best trainer. Guys whose game is based off of winning the mental game and technique. Like Roy Jones wasn't based off no technique. He was just he was a freak of nature. He was unorthodox. He was awkward. But Roy had a good mind, though, to make Roy a good trainer. But I think SOG could be a better trainer, because he didn't have awkward. He was basic, technique, straight up and down, and he did what he had to do. But I would love to see Ward come back, man. I don't think he was one of those guys overshadowed in the sport. And people say, oh, he came in and fought Kovalev and got one challenge and quit. I heard some dumb person say that. That's one of the most idiotic statements I ever heard. His first fight in the Super 6 was challenging. Miguel Kessler was a top dog. He was the favorite to win that tournament. Him and Arthur Abraham, that was the two favorites to win that tournament. Especially after he went to war with Calzaghe and he had the clout. It wasn't nobody picking Andre Ward to win the tournament. People was picking Darrell over Ward, and Ward was the gold medalist. He handled that test. What are you talking about? That's a challenge right there. He handled Arthur Abraham. He handled Carl Froch. He handled Chad Dawson. Like it or not, what weight it was at, hey, that was Chad's decision. He came back off a layoff and conquered Kovalev. So he'd had hard tests his whole career, And people just say the idiotic things to downplay and hate and do whatever you do and try to take away from this guy's legacy. Chavez, Senior said some things, said, oh, what could have been. At the end of the day, he was a pinnacle of two weight classes. He was the top dog at 68 and top dog at 175. How many guys can say they was legit the best at both weight classes? How many guys can say that at two weight classes after taking a long layoff, going through promotional issues, being on the fast track and forced to fight Kovalev, conquered the number one guy who was this monster? How many guys really can say that? You dig? Not too many guys can say that their story unfolded like that and they didn't duck and shy away from anything. Only guy that he didn't fight was Lucian Bute. He said he felt that Bute should have, gotten to the tournament like Alan Green did and Glenn Johnson, but he chose not to want to compete. And we see how Lucian Bute's career unfolded. But he said that they asked him who was the guy you think could challenge Kovalev the most in so many words. He said Sullivan Breer. He said we was telling guys when we fought Breer, this guy was a top contender. He was a real good fighter. And he said people starting to see how really good Breer is. He says the only concern about Breer is can he take it on the jaw, because he's been down in his last 3 or 4 fights. And they asked him about Kovalev mentality as well. He says that he's still not taking ownership for losing. He's still not taking a personal blame on himself. He says that tells you a lot about a guy. He said going into the second fight, and Kovalev was still harboring on the second fight. He said when a guy get to yapping and talking too much and they not, being quiet and handling their business, then you're not worried. He says you're not worried. He says that if Kovalev would have said, okay, it was a close fight, I felt I won, went away, went to the lab, worked real hard, then I would have been worried. But he said he got to chirping and talking. He said I was never worried. And he talked about his personal demons he's been dealing with, saying his body's been breaking down. Says he has a documentary coming out that's really going to show you guys how he barely was able to get ready and drag himself in the ring versus Kovalev, dealing with the knee thing that I told y'all going to the second fight about the fluid in his sac and his knee that they found, shoulder injury, how grueling just his body started breaking down, and I think that equated into him choosing to retire. It was a very revealing media session / interview. So like I said, I'm gonna leave that full interview in the description. It's at the Boxing Voice. Subscribe. Great group of guys over there. Great content. We gone.